All right, here we are. Hi, welcome. My name is Elizabeth Pampalone, and I am not sure what Facebook is doing, but it is acting very, very strange. And so I also need to know if you can hear me. So if you can hear me, then please put in a comment um, and let me know that. If you can't hear me, I also need a comment so that I can fix my sound if I need to. There's no sound testing on here, which I think is really, really weird. Um, so I definitely want to know if you can hear me at all. So anyway, um, oh, it's working this time. Okay, great. Thank you. Oh my gosh, it took me like forever to get on here. I was having so much trouble. All right, so I have some things I want to talk to you guys tonight about branding, and I know you guys just had a meeting about this, so it'll kind of go hand in hand. Hopefully, it won't be so much of a repeat because I wasn't able to be at the last meeting. I was actually in Ohio. I just got back on Tuesday, so yesterday. It's all blurring together. Yes, I was on a plane. No, I'm not infected. Blah blah blah. So, anyway, so we're gonna talk about branding. My name is Elizabeth Pampalone. For those of you who don't know, and I am a website designer, marketer, speaker. I do all the things. And branding is actually one of my really, really, really favorite things to talk about because I think it's so important. And if you notice right now, if you've ever seen my brand, um, I wear green. I wear green all the time because it is my brand color. And when it comes to your brand, presenting your colors even is a really important piece. So I choose in my work life, my Monday through Friday work wardrobe, I have things that are green. Now there are different shades of green. I have some stuff that's lime green, which very few pieces of that. I have a lot of Kelly green items. I have a lot of hunter green items. And then I also wear a lot of black and white stripe with my green. So I also wear red lipstick because it's in my photo on my business card and on my website. And then I wear green. So that's me presenting my brand every single day. I also have a green suitcase. I have a green bag that I carry with me every day as my everyday bag. My purse, if it's a Kate Spade, it's like a Kelly green color. You guys have probably seen it. And then I tie a yellow scarf to it. So it's like a gold yellow scarf. And that's also one of my brand colors. So I'm really promoting my brand colors on a day-to-day basis in front of everyone. And I have a story to kind of back this up. I had a client who came to meet me at my office, and I was standing in the lobby waiting for her, and I wasn't wearing green. This was like our third day working together. As you guys know, I actually do some sessions where I do the 3, 4 days together with someone in a row. And I was working with this person, and she's coming in, and I'm like looking in my bag. It was sitting on a chair, it was kind of hidden. I'm wearing all black, so I'm not, paying attention to the green thing that time because it'd been 3 days with her. I was like, okay, she gets it. So I'm wearing all black. I'm leaning down. She walks in and she walks right by me. And I said, hey, where are you going? Wait for me. And she looks back at me. She goes, oh, I didn't recognize you. I didn't see any green. I was like, I don't have to wear green every day, but I do. And it's really helpful for my clients because then they know that, they recognize that. And I've had people come up to me and say, I saw your green. I got you this. Or I saw your green the other day. It was in Macy's and they had this, whatever. Or it was in Dillard's and they had whatever. People tell me they see my green all the time. I don't own this color. I mean, it's a nail polish color, for gosh sake. It's just everywhere. It's a color, right? But people remember it associated with me. And so when they're out and they see in the nail salon and they see the nail polish color, they're like, "Oh, that's Elizabeth's green," or they think of me because of that. Or they're out and they see a dress, or they're out and they see a car with that color, then that reminds them of me. Crazy as it sounds, but it reminds them of me because I've put in the effort to create that visual for them. And I have put forth the effort to say, I'm doing this every day, all day. And if you see me, I'm probably going to be wearing green. I have accessories that are green. I have pens that are green. I have notebooks that are green. I mean, I go all out with it. And it really does speak to consistency. Branding is all about consistency. If you think about the McDonald's, they haven't changed their logo in decades because it's branded, it's memorable. They can stamp it somewhere, they can put it somewhere, and you know exactly what it is. When I was a kid and we watched Star Wars, with my dad, there's a scene in the second movie, which would be the fifth, sixth movie if you're counting, or the fifth movie if you're counting. Um, the fifth movie, and it's when Luke is meeting Yoda, and they're in the forest, and he's got all his lanterns set up, and he's got all his little camp stove and all that, and he's camping out. And then Yoda comes along and starts messing everything up. Well, they have this scene where they're showing far back, and Yoda is leading Luke off to his house, and you see these lanterns. And I said to my dad, I said, why is the McDonald's logo on all the lanterns? And he's like, what? And so we're watching on VHS at that point. He rewinds it and he's like up at the front of the TV looking like, where is that? And he goes, oh my gosh, I see it. And as a child, I knew what a brand was. I could see that there's this M shape and it's yellow. That's McDonald's, and it looked like the lanterns looked like Happy Meal boxes to me. So even as a kid, even kids can recognize those kind of things. So branding is super, super important, and consistency is huge. Now, has McDonald's changed their, mascots, and have they changed their way they do things? I mean, they had a different mascot way back in the day in the 50s, and they had all these different things that have changed, but the brand has stayed the same. The colors have stayed the same. The initial mark that mark the M has stayed the same pretty much. So those things have all been really consistent. Red and yellow and the M. That's the consistency. So when you pick something, you want to be consistent. Now, can you rebrand? Of course. It's not a problem to rebrand. But when you do it, you have to be really thoughtful, and you have to know that the rebrand is going to take you further and not set you back. Let's talk about the right brand. A lot of people, they get into the wrong brand up front. They get into the wrong brand right away, and they just do something on Fiverr. They do something on Etsy. Oh, that's the worst ones. They pick something off of Etsy because they think it looks pretty. It's so beautiful. It's just them. It looks like what they wanted. Everything they wanted is right there. They don't have to do any work with a designer. Maybe the person will even customize it a little bit for them, but you're buying it off of Etsy. And now 50 other people can do that too. 100 other people can do that too. They're going to find it also pretty. They're going to put their name in the middle, and now you have something that's not unique to you, and you look like everybody else. Um, and that's really where we see a lot of this stuff where everything looks the same, and then you can't really tell people apart. I've never had the problem of anyone not being able to tell me apart from someone else. So you want to have the right brand that's for you, that is you. Your brand should really be something that's so confidence boosting, and you should own it, and it should just be like when you hand your card out, when you show someone your website, when if someone looks at your card and they're like, didn't you do the such and such? And you're like, no, that wasn't me. You shouldn't even have that situation happening, because that you won't be the same. They won't even think that you're the other person, because the brand won't resonate with them the same way. So but the brand should give you this confidence that's like when you put on that, like when I wear this shirt, like this is one of my favorite shirts. It is like fits me perfectly. It's beautiful. It's my color. I can walk around in this and be like, I've got the whole world. Like I can do all of these things. I can sell you this. I can do this marketing for you. Just so much confidence. There's no doubt when I'm wearing this shirt in my mind that I'm not good at what I do, because it's part of my brand. That brand should give you that confidence and say, I'm so good at what I do that if you want to work with me, I will be thrilled to work with you. But if you don't want to work with me, that's okay. I'll move on to the next person. And there's none of this desperation. There's none of that. The brand will actually take a lot of that away, because when you have that right brand, and this goes along with your messaging, when you have that right message that goes with that brand, unstoppable. Unstoppable. So if you don't have the right brand and you don't have that confidence about what you're doing, about your branding, and the branding even goes deep into, it kind of has tentacles that go into all the pieces, right? So it goes into your product offerings, into your services, into your packages, into the way you name things, into how you structure your business. All of that has to do with branding. And when I work with someone on a brand, we do branding in a day. And I will even go as far as into when they're talking about naming their company, what are you doing? What are you offering? Even the name can be wrong. Sometimes we just use our own name, and that's fine for a little while. And then it becomes necessary to use a name, or we pick a name and it was like a name we picked like 10 years ago and it doesn't resonate with what we're doing anymore. That's when it's time to rebrand. I actually had a client who was a photographer, and she was using her name as her brand. So it was blank blank photography, and it was fine. She didn't want to change the name because everyone knows that's a pain in the butt. But there's like quick and easy ways of doing that. So if you want help, let me know. But she didn't want to change the name. But what she said was, it's not me anymore. What I was doing, what it looks like, the way it's presented, it's not me anymore. That was 10 years ago. And I said, well, what is you? And so we took about 4 hours. We didn't work on the name at all. Sometimes we'll work a couple hours on the name, a couple hours on the tagline. We worked for 4 hours on the tagline. It was that message. It was the message that said, this is my heart in one sentence. This is my cause in one sentence. And she has a cause. Yeah, she's a business and she's not a nonprofit. But her cause was to show women how beautiful they are beyond being who they are. And so I thought it was so awesome that she was able to just really hone in on that. And we worked, like I said, 4 hours on that thing, and it was just one sentence. And now it drives everything she does in her business. I actually worked with 3 photographers last year, within 3 months, and they were all from the same mentor. And they all came to me very, very similar. They all did very similar things because they all had the same mentor. And once they kind of went through my process and then I sent them out into the world again, they all 3 of them went out with separate identities, with separate brands. Now they had separate brands before, obviously, but they all took this opportunity to take their separate brand and really amplify it to their cause, their heart, their mission. And each one of them, they kept their names, the same name. So and so photography, so and so photography, so and so photography. It was the same. We didn't change any of that. We just fixed the messaging. And I can tell you right now that all 3 of them walked out of the office on the last day of their session and they were like, I can do that. Like, they knew they could do it before they were doing it. They were beautiful photographers, but they had this new renewed mission that gave them that new clothes, new outfit confidence, which I love seeing so much. So if it's time for a rebrand for you, it may not be a whole rebrand, but it may be a messaging rebrand. And that's really the core of your brand. The pretty stuff is just pretty stuff. The logos, the colors, the fonts, we're going to talk about a little bit about that in a minute, but those things are just the pretty things. Those things can change and come and go and blah, blah, blah. But the name and the tagline, that's the core. That's where we start. Let's talk a little bit about colors and fonts for a minute. So I do color psychology and font psychology with my clients when we sit down, because it is so important to choose the right font, let alone the colors. I mean, sometimes you have a great color scheme and it's just working for you, like me with the green and like I have the gold yellow color. It works for me. I don't use the yellow color a lot, but I use it occasionally, so it's like a secondary piece for me. I also have a pink, coral pink color that I use as well, which you may have seen. But those are my 3 colors, and then of course I use black and white. And so with that, I have chosen those 3 colors, and I always use the same shades. Those little hex numbers that you're a designer or you should have gotten for yourself, those numbers are super, super important. So what we want to do is use those same colors every single time. You don't want to go into a color picker ever on Canva, on Vistaprint. I don't care what you're doing. You don't want to go to any color picker on the internet and go, oh, that's kind of my blue. Oh, that's kind of my green. Oh, that looks like my. No, there should be a box there for you for a number. I'm being super picky about this, that you will put that number in and you will copy it from Evernote, your notes, whatever. I don't care. Keep it somewhere and copy it and paste it in, because that is so, so important. That is how you get brand consistency, is by using the same colors and using the same fonts. Fonts are so important too. Your website might not have your font. That should tell you something. Squarespace has a lot of fonts. I use Squarespace exclusively for most of my clients, unless they were old WordPress gals before. So them, sometimes we help them out. But Squarespace is my go-to. They have so many fonts built in. You don't even have to add any. If you have to add a font to your website, or if your font that you're already using is not in Squarespace already, you're not using the right font. Reason I say this is because most fonts that people use are the same ones, but they use them in different ways. And so it makes it look like a completely different logo. And I've had several of my clients that I've done fonts for or done logos for. And if you look at my logo portfolio, you'll see that you can pick out the same fonts. But when you see them as its individual logo on that site, you wouldn't know that it came from a place of all the other logos are using the same font. There's a lot of logos that use a very similar or the same font, and it's one that's very readily available in Squarespace. It's one that's readily available in Canva. It's not about using something, well, everybody's used it. No, that's Papyrus. That's like a very specific font. Comic Sans. No, we're not using those. But these are fonts that are so simple because we're doing something more elaborate with our icon. We're doing something more elaborate with our coloring. We're doing something a little different with, the way we're laying it out. So if you use the right font, it's got to be something simple. It's got to be something clean. It doesn't have to be, sans serif font. It can be a serif font or a script font or a handwritten font, but it has to be the right one. It has to be the right one. And so when you're choosing a font, you want to make sure that it's something that's readily available, that you can use in Canva, that you can use in Squarespace and not have to do a lot of extra work, because sometimes they don't show up on some mobile phones and some devices. It's getting a little better, but in some cases they still don't show up. And they'll just show a regular old font and you'll have no idea because you won't have tested it that way or you won't have seen it that way. And then your whole effect is lost anyway. Other times we'll use the wrong font and we'll say, well, I want all my heading ones to be my script font. Okay, your heading ones, those things are massive, by the way. And then you use a script font that's so hard to read and so tiny. It comes out real tiny. I mean, there's lots of different things that can happen, especially on websites these days with the phones and stuff like that, that you don't want to choose the wrong font for that either. So you want 1 to 2 fonts. You want 2 to 3 colors. They need to be simple. They need to be easy to access. And you need to have all this written down. I do a little image for my clients that shows all their colors with the numbers, the hex codes that go with them, and it shows them all the fonts that they can use and the names of the fonts and that they're part of their logo. And then it will also show them any other marks that we made. Sometimes I do, vertical logos or like square logos for their, Instagram and things like profile pictures. And then other times I'll do the horizontal ones for the website and other things. So you just want to talk to your designer. If you designed it, talk to yourself and make sure that you have all those pieces together. Also, you want vectors of your logos. This is just kind of a technical thing now, not necessarily a branding thing, but if you don't have a vector version of your logo, that's a really, really important piece too, because then now you can't use it for a sign or get something printed where the printer is going to need that vector version. So whenever I give my clients stuff, I make sure they have at least 16 different file types. You also need a black version. You also need a white version and a gray version of your logo in all its formats. That's why I have 20 different images that I send to my clients when they get a logo. So look through your stuff. If you don't have all those pieces, it's easily made up. It can be easily converted. So if you need help with that, let me know. I'm happy to help. Let's talk about email marketing and social media. So email marketing, when it comes to branding, I have to tell you a story. All right. There was a client of mine. They just started email marketing. This was a couple years ago. And they decided that it was near Easter time. So they went on and they said, we're going to try and make our own email marketing template. And I had been making them for them for a while, and I had been doing them with their brand colors and putting their logo at the top and adding images and all this stuff. And they said, well, we're going to do our own. And I said, okay, that's fine. Let me know if you need help. I get the email that has been sent out to a list of 20,000. This is a big organization. It was a nonprofit, and they insisted on doing this one themselves. They did not include their logo. They did not have one color on the template that was their color. They used one of the Easter templates that was pastels, neon colors. I mean, it was like the brightest Easter template you could possibly think of. It had a green faded to blue background. It had grass and eggs at the bottom. And all they did was basically write 2 lines that said Happy Easter something or other. And then they put from the staff, and they had everything in italic Times New Roman. And they didn't even change the part in the top corner that says use this as a preview for your message. So the technical issues aside, they chose something that, oh, it's pretty, oh, it's Eastery, had nothing to do with their brand. They sent it out. No one opened it. I mean, it was like one of those people saw the title, and they just ignored it. So not no one, but very, very small percentage. The next email we sent out was one that I did because it was their normal blogging and things like that, normal news posts. It had their colors, it had their logo, it had their fonts. We sent it out, and they had like a 40% open rate. I was floored because we had been doing well, but not that good. And I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that they sent out this kind of horrible email, and then they sent out this really good one, and people were actually opening it and clicking on things. The moral of this story is that your brand is super important. And the people that even did open the email for the Easter one, they didn't click on anything because there were no buttons, there were no calls to action, there were no reasons to do anything with the email. And if they had opened it and even paid attention to who it was from before they opened it, once they opened it, there'd be really no indication of who it was from except the from the team line, which was very, very tiny in italics on top of a very graphic background. So that kind of stuff is just going to hurt your brand long term. It's going to make people think you're not serious. It's going to make people think you don't take the time on your brand to work on your brand and to be consistent. So what we want to do is avoid those kind of things. Even if you see a really pretty template in email marketing, no. Now, when it comes to social media, and Canva is the worst offender for this, they've gotten better. So I know a lot of us use Canva. I use it every day. I love it. I use it for a lot of my social media templates. When it comes to Canva, when you take an image or what they call an element from Canva and it is already a color, maybe it's like cute waves. I know you guys, I think, probably made those waves or something, but like for the rising tide, they have those little cute waves, and it has the little dark blue line and then the light blue like watercolor piece. So something like that you might find in Canva. There might be something like a badge or a flower or I don't know, something, right? An Easter egg, something like that. So if there's something like that in Canva and you use it in an image or you use it on a flyer or you use it on your business card, something like that. When you bring it over, it's usually, these usually aren't photographs, they're colored images like GIFs or like a illustration almost. So when you bring it over, if you click on it, you'll notice in the top left-hand side of the editing window, you'll see colors, sometimes multiple colors, sometimes one color. And if you click on it, let's say the thing you brought over was a pink flower. You can actually make that flower white. You can change the color if it allows that option at the top. And then for me, I would change the color to white, and then I would make a green background for my social post. And I would have that flower in the corner, and then I would put white writing, and then maybe another picture or another element or something that's also white. So that flower may have been pink, but I can look at it and see as a designer that that flower would look really great white. I can do it white, right? And so I could make it white and then use it on a green background, or I could make it green, my green specifically, and I could use it on a white background or a cream background or something else that goes with my brand colors, right? So I could even use the yellow color that I use, and I could make the flower that yellow color and put it on green. So it just depends. But when you're using something like Canva, go to your go-to colors. When you're pulling something, make sure you can change the color of it and use your colors, not their random colors. Even if it looks like your color, it's probably not the exact shade, and it's going to be more important to have your exact shade in there than it is to try and just do something really quickly. It's going to take you 2 extra seconds, and it's going to make a huge, huge difference. The other thing is to use the same fonts. Maybe you use a Canva template that already has fonts in it. You want to change those fonts to your fonts. You're going to have 2 or 3 fonts. You want to make them your fonts, and you don't want to make them hard to read. So I try to avoid script fonts when I create logos to begin with, but it also helps that when you're using them later on, that they're not going to be hard to read then. So just to recap, if anybody has any questions too, I'm open to those. But just to recap, we have the right brand and the right message will give you a lot of confidence and make you feel like the smartest person in the room, because you kind of are in your field. And we want to have that so that when it's the right fit, you know it, and you just feel like, I can do anything with this brand. I can sell anything with this brand. I can say anything with this brand, and it will resonate, and people will come to me for the expertise that I have. And then you want to use the same colors over and over and over and over, the same fonts over and over and over and over, 2 to 3 of each, no more. With fonts, really just 2, but 2 to 3 colors would be great. And get those numbers. You need those numbers. You also need the right formats of your logo or your marks, your icons. And then email marketing. Don't go crazy. Literally, the best emails I've ever written are the simplest. And they have logo at the top, headline, picture, text around it maybe, call to action, button. That's it. It's just simple, right? And those get the most interaction. Also, the buttons, one should be one of your brand colors, the other should be the other brand color. Your strongest brand color, mine being green, should be your buy now button, and the other color, maybe gray, maybe the yellow, whatever color I choose with my other color. That would be a learn more button, and they should both go to the same link. Just a little email tip for you. And then with social media, you want to be consistent using your colors. You don't want to overdo it. Don't use, like if my color's green, I don't want to use every single post to be green, but I want to use the same fonts over and over so it looks consistent. I want to use the same colors over and over. So when I am using a color, it's the same green every single time. And you also want to make sure that you're changing things and you're not just using them as is. There's all these options in Canva that you can use to change things to make it your branding. And so that's why it's such a great platform. All right, any questions? Any questions at all? It doesn't tell me if anyone's viewing, so it's kind of sad. But I hope that if you have any questions, feel free to either comment and I'll comment back to you, or if you want to message me, you're welcome to do that as well. I am going to be coming to the next meeting, I believe. I don't know when it will be exactly. I know it's the second Tuesday, I think. And I'm excited about that. So hopefully all this stuff will be gone by then and we can actually gather, right? If not, I'll see you back on here again sometime. I know I'm speaking later in the year, but I don't know what date it is because I only look at my calendar for like next week. So bad about that, I know, right? Let's see what else. There's something else I was supposed to say. Let me look at my notes. Oh yes. If you need a website audit, I am doing those for free right now. I'm happy to tear up your website. I am the Gordon Ramsay of websites, so just beware. And I give you a 10 to 10 minute video on me going through every single page, visible page of your website and critiquing it, giving you feedback, telling you what I would change, what I would do if I was you, if I was your web designer or you yourself. And I will send that video to you free. And it's my pleasure to do that. I wanted to offer something to people during this whole Corona nonsense because it is nonsense. Not that the illness is nonsense, but like the hype and hysteria, I feel has gotten a little out of hand in some cases. I was just in Ohio, as I said, and people were freaking out. I come to Florida and people are like, chill, man, it's cool. We got this. Self-quarantine. I was like, okay. So it was very weird. 2 totally different experiences with coronavirus, to say the least. So once this is all over, we'll hopefully get back to normal soon. But I wanted to offer the free audits to people because I wanted them to have something that they can do. I feel like in this time when we're kind of a little bit halted in what we can do and a lot of things are being canceled, that we can work on our businesses. And it's a lot of the stuff that's at the end of your to-do list that never gets done. So, for example, I've been meaning to repot some plants for like 3 weeks and I haven't done it. So I'm going to be doing that tomorrow. One of those things at the end of my list that just never gets done. But working on our businesses, working on our brands, working on our messaging. Oh my gosh, on our messaging is so important because that changes. I feel like even more than our brand changes, even though it's a core central piece of it. I feel like our message can change from year to year, even. And we want to make sure that we're sending out the right message. We're telling people the right thing. So, one last little quick story. I had a client that I was working with and she had a brand. She liked it. I worked with her. We redid her brand. She loved it. We also created a community, a society for her. You might know her if you know who I'm talking about. And she decided that she wanted to take the society and like run with it. And the I've seen her do like pitches before in meetings, and she would just get up and say, "I'm a photographer and I do this and this and this and da 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 da." And then I worked on her with her brand and her messaging, and she created this new society that she wanted to try and start, which is going really well right now, by the way. And she gets up to the next meeting that I went to with her. It was just a women's lunch meeting. And she just stands up and she says, "I unveil beauty in women over 50." And the room, I mean, I could feel it. It was tangible. The room was just like, and you could hear audible gasps. That's what my favorite part of the whole thing was. Like, I could hear people taking breath. Like, oh, oh, like it was like they dawned on them, like, wow, I've never heard of this before. She had been doing this the whole time. That's what the funny thing was. But the way she was saying it wasn't getting across. And when she said that, instantly, instant connection, instant electricity. And at the end of the session, at the end of the meeting, oh my gosh, she was swarmed with people. Can I get your card? Can I get your card? Oh, my mother. Oh, my sister. Oh, da, 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 da. I need you for myself. Da, 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 da. I mean, it was just like a frenzy. And it was just one sentence that we worked on. I mean, just one. All she changed in that. I mean, we changed her logo a little bit and things like that. But like I said, that's the pretty stuff. She was in the meeting. She was talking. So she didn't have a logo to say, look, there's my logo. Remember me. So she just changed the words she was using, and it was like instant connection. So, anyway, with that story, I will leave you all, bid you adieu. I don't want to make this too long because if anybody's watching the replay, it's going to get boring. And I also have a ton of podcasts that I've been on recently. And I'm also doing my own podcast now. So if you want any more tips, more information, you can go to, I'll put this in here real quick, elizabethpampalone.com/podcast. That's my podcast. And I'm going to put in here my press page, which has all my podcasts that I've been on recently, which was a lot. And that'll have some info on some other things if you just want to, clean the house and listen to me, or watch the kids in the yard and listen to me, because that's what people do sometimes. I hope I've given you some good ideas, and I hope that I will see you at the next meeting. Ciao.